Greetings and welcome my friends. You have come over to the deck guide side. This is our current showcase deck, Eraser, which is featured in videos on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of this week. This is usually the strategy shot time slot, so we might move this to a different day in order to get a play guide video out in a more timely fashion. Eraser is an Esper Control deck. The aim is to reduce the opponent's deck to a smoldering ruin. Or we will break their will. One of those two will happen if we win. The early turns will be about keeping enemy men off the table with early removals. As we kept a hand without early removals, we are banking on the Rankle's pranks to clear out any enemy men as we enter the mid-game. As the deck is focused on absolute destruction, we are able to keep these slower hands. We've already drawn an excellent pinpoint removal, the Black March, which we imagine will end up under their bat. Which is fine, once we get a case down the pranks will cost only 3 mana. Let's take a moment and analyze the opponent's bat and why I feel it isn't very good. First, it really doesn't take a card out of your hand. That is only temporary. If you have no removal in your deck, then it is a card gone, and maybe for the remainder of the game. But this is Eraser, and we have many ways of eliminating enemy men. Second, the bat is not a threat. A flying 1/1 with lifelink is not much of a clock. Just keep track of where our life is at by the time we deal with their bat. When facing early men like this, continue to build up your board position. We're not at risk of losing because they've gotten 2 bats in play. We'll proceed with our game and let them figure out how to beat us. One key is identifying bigger threats and eliminating those. While we have life, we still have time. By playing men out, they are playing right into what we want them to do. The majority of Eraser is dedicated to destruction of enemy men. With this deck, always play to the strengths of what you have in hand. We have 2 pranks, so let's keep them at 2 men on board. If we had a wipe that we could fire off, then we wouldn't even bother responding to them dropping an unknown. We have a Field of Ruin, but try to save it for any man lands or any special lands that could be problematic. Mirex is the prime target, since making tokens turn after turn is very hard to deal with. We've centered the deck around our cases. Each one gives us a mana discount on instants and sorceries. We aren't trying to solve these until later in the game when we have 2 or more in play. The more we have in play, the cheaper our spells will be and the easier it will be to solve the cases. Once solved, each case will draw us a card every time we play an instant or sorcery. So for example, an Edict would cost us 1 black mana but draw us 2 cards with 2 solved cases in play. At that point we can kill off everything seemingly at will, all the while we're drawing more cards than we can fire off. The opponent really loves these bats, but they back themselves into a corner. There's no good choice. Take the removal to save the bat, we'll draw to get more removals. Take the draw, then we can snipe the bat. If they were playing something like the Skullcap Snail, we'd have very limited options at this point. Always have patience, this game is not getting away from us. When we get our scrutiny back, we can use it to draw 6 cards with what we have in play right now. And a mid-game scrutiny is a nightmare for the opponent. We refuel our hand while they have only 1 card left. Sure, they have the advantage on board, but that is only temporary. Without the cases in play, it would be impossible to fire off our Sunfall in the end in the same turn, but here we can do both with mana left over. This little trick of theirs is not going to fly this time. The execution of their men is our highest priority, and here we will take both. Always try to save the end for something that you really don't want to see again for the remainder of the game. It's a potent weapon, but its effectiveness can be greatly reduced if fired off at a target that doesn't impact the game much. We are playing shark lands, which make great attackers, but always take care when activating them. Make sure the opponent doesn't have removals that can hit the land. We definitely want to connect if we're taking the time to swing in. Use Pilfer as a way to gain information about their deck, their hand, and what they might be planning. It's effective disruption for just 2 mana early, and only 1 mana once you have a case in play. At that point, it's a better duress. In every game, regardless of what deck you're playing, always anticipate what your opponent's next move will be. Expecting them to drop a Sheldred? Reserve a removal to take her out. You think they might have a breach? Keep a cover up at the ready. And don't counter any men if you have removal. Most especially don't counter any one-sized men. To sum up, don't sweat tiny men. Use life points as a resource. We don't lose until we have 0 life. This deck is built to take out endless numbers of enemy men, and we can even take out other permanents as well. Use counters effectively. Only try to solve the cases when you have multiples in play. And feel free to hit enemy man lands with removals to save Field of Ruin for later use. But if it comes down to using your only removal in hand or using a Field of Ruin, use the land first. GG's. We'll catch you next time.